Mary said to Jesus, "Whom are your disciples like?" He said, "They are like children who have settled in a field which is not theirs. When the owners of the field come, they will say, 'Let us have back our field.' They will undress in their presence in order to let them have back their field and to give it back to them. Therefore I say, if the owner of a house knows that the thief is coming, he will begin his vigil before he comes and will not let him dig into his house of his domain to carry away his goods. You then, be on your guard against the world. Gird your loins with great strength, lest the robbers find a way to come to you, for the difficulty which you expect will surely materialize. Let there be among you a man of understanding. When the grain ripened, he came quickly with his sickle in his hand and reaped it. Whomever has ears to hear, let him hear." Welcome to the Paracosm Cafe TV. Have a sip with me. Ladies and gentlemen, coffee aficionados and fellow seekers of the unexplained, welcome back to the Paracosm Cafe Show. I'm your host, Michael Acevedo, and tonight we've got a double shot of spine-tingling stories that will make you question reality itself. The excerpt at the beginning of the episode was taken from the Gospel of Thomas, a quantum masterpiece, and it is saying 21 for anyone who is interested. I believe this saying has great significance in at least one of today's stories. But before we dive into the unknown, let's talk coffee. I've got a steaming cup of hazelnut delight from the Semilla Coffee Lab in McAllen, Texas. A brew that's as mysterious and flavorful as the tales we're about to unravel. The aroma alone is a tantalizing journey into the unknown, promising a warm embrace of hazelnut notes that will dance on your taste buds. Now, let's brew some intrigue, shall we? In our first story, we explored the chilling experiences of Liam, who discovered that his old house held secrets darker than the deepest coffee roast, a ghostly entity that did not hesitate to make its presence known. It's a story that reminds us that sometimes the line between the living and the supernatural is as thin as the steam rising from our morning brew. And then we took a journey into the abyss with Olivia, whose Halloween nightmare involved a seemingly innocent moth morphing into a demonic entity. It's a tale of torment and terror that challenges our perception of reality and proves that darkness can take on the most unexpected forms, even when you're sipping your favorite coffee. Speaking of which, this hazelnut coffee from Semilla Coffee Lab is like a potion from a barista wizard. The richness of the hazelnut blends with the smooth coffee, creating an elixir that's nothing short of enchanting. It's a perfect companion for a night filled with paranormal stories. Thank you for being here. So grab your own favorite brew, whether it's a comforting classic coffee or something more daring, and let the Paracosm Cafe Show take you on a journey where the mystical and the aromatic collide. Tonight, we're serving up the supernatural with a side of hazelnut allure. I gotta tell you guys, this stuff tastes real good. So stay tuned as we explore the realms of the uncanny and the caffeinated. Welcome to the cafe where mysteries brew and every short story is an invitation to sip the unexplainable. Thank you for having a sip with me.
A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So, he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions. By thoughts, I mean specifically chatter in the skull, perpetual and compulsive repetition of words, of reckoning and calculating. I'm not saying that thinking is bad. Like everything else, it's useful in moderation. A good servant, but a bad master. And all so-called civilized peoples have increasingly become...
Alright, guys, so before we get into the first story with Olivia, I would like to shamelessly plug a couple of things that I created for the listeners. So, as y'all know, I am an author, and I created a journal series that I think you guys are going to like. So, right now at the moment, Series 1 contains Journal A and Journal B. Journal A is an alien abduction journal, and Journal B is a Bigfoot journal. So I think they're pretty cool. So I left some little art in there that you can color doodle. So you can use them for serious work, like you can write down your experiences if you're experiencing alien abduction, so you don't forget them, or not that you would forget them, right? Or if you have a Bigfoot encounter, so you can write them in, or you can use them for school. I left out some coloring things in there that you can doodle on if you have time or whatnot, or when you lose focus. So I'm going to leave some videos on my Instagram page at the Paracosm Cafe, so you guys can go check those out. Also, I'll leave a link in the description to my Kindle page. If you guys can't find it, you can look it up as under my name, or Beauty Demands Intimacy, and it should give you everything that I have available for sale. So, with that said, let's get into our first story. Hey there, I'm Olivia, and I got a spine-tingling tale to share. One that unfolded on a Halloween night I'll never forget. It was a dark and stormy autumn evening, the perfect Halloween atmosphere. My house was decked out with pumpkins, cobwebs, and eerie decorations, setting the stage for a night of spine-chilling stories. I had invited a few friends over for a Halloween movie marathon, and as the clock struck midnight, we were deep into the horror flicks, with the wind howling outside like a pack of restless spirits. That's when I saw it, a moth fluttering outside my living room window. At first I didn't think much of it. Moths are drawn to light, right? But this moth was different. It was relentless, hovering just outside the glass, like it was trying to get in. Its wings were pale and translucent, like ghostly veils. Something about it gave me the creeps. Hours passed, and my friends eventually left, leaving me alone in the eerie silence of my Halloween-adorned house. That's when things took a sinister turn. I noticed the moth was still there, right outside the window. Even though I had turned off all the lights, it felt like it was watching me, and an unsettling feeling began to settle in the pit of my stomach. I decided to call it a night, went to bed, hoping to shake off the unease. But as I lay in bed, in my darkened room, I could hear the faint sound of wings fluttering around. I turned on my bedside lamp, and there it was, the same moth, perched on the edge of my nightstand. Its body seemed to shimmer in the soft light. I tried to shoo it away, but it refused to budge. It just sat there, its tiny eyes fixed on me. Panic washed over me as I realized something was seriously wrong. This wasn't any ordinary moth. It was something far more malevolent, something that had infiltrated my house on this haunted night. In a trembling voice, I asked, "What do you want?" That's when the impossible happened. The moth began to change right before my eyes. Its wings folded inwards, and a shadowy figure emerged from within, growing taller and darker until it took on the form of a grotesque demonic entity. My heart raced as I stared at this monstrous being, its eyes like burning coals and a malevolent grin on its twisted face. It laughed, a bone-chilling and otherworldly sound that echoed in the room. It spoke with a voice that sent shivers down my spine, telling me of its insatiable hunger, of its desire to torment the living. It had the guise of a moth to gain entry into my home on this unholy Halloween night. For days, it plagued me, peering in the corners of my vision, whispering nightmarish promises, and casting a dark, suffocating presence over my life. Sleepless nights turned into a never-ending nightmare as I struggled to break free from its grip. But then, just as suddenly as it had entered my life, it vanished. One eerie night, the entity simply dissolved into shadows, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of relief and an unshakable fear of Halloween that lingers to this day. That Halloween night taught me that sometimes malevolent forces can slip through the cracks of our world and wreak havoc in ways we can't comprehend. It was a chilling reminder that on Halloween, the boundary between our reality and supernatural is at its thinnest, and the darkest and the darkness that lurks beyond can take on terrifying forms. All right, guys. So, as you guys know, I prefaced the show with an excerpt from the Gospel of Thomas and also the little Halloween history, right? So, something that you guys need to understand is that these entities literally come around harvest time to extract stuff from you, okay? So I have personal experience. I know how they're doing it. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it, but I've seen them do it. So I kind of have an idea, right? So they're using this little sickle in their hand, and that's where it was. It looks like a little wand, really, but Jesus calls it a sickle. Remember, when the grain ripened, he came quickly with his sickle in his hand and reaped it. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. So what they do is they come and they harvest your energetic powers, I guess you could say, from the cerebral spinal fluid. Remember, if in my introductory show I mentioned that cerebral spinal fluid is a conveyor of ultrasonic and light energy, right? So your soul basically swims in cerebral spinal fluid. And what is cerebral spinal fluid? The Greeks knew that as Christos. So your soul is literally swimming in Christ, right? So what happens is these beings are coming in to steal your gifts, right? So the whole point of being in this material world is so that we can experience life, experience the world through God, right? So God has given us Christ, the oil inside us, right? So we are just sensing beings, right? So we revolve, we use our senses to experience, right? So God is experiencing sensations through us individually, right? So these things are coming to take that stuff away from you, right? So when these shadow beings come into your house, they are literally using this little wand as a sickle to steal the stuff from you. Okay, so one of my experiences is seeing that happen to my wife, and another one is when it happened to me. But they actually what they did was, it was around. In fact, I wrote a poem about it a while back. I don't think I'm going to be able to find it real quick. But let me just check, because I think it might leave some insight to what had happened that night. And I think I titled it 016. There it is. It's a short one. So this is actually going into my subsequent book, Beauty Demands Rage and Acquiescence, which has more biblical themes. And I'm actually almost done with it. I don't know if I should add a story like I did with the intimacy book, but we'll see. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. 016, your sickle in hand. Let you in and take my goods? I think not, for his promise endures. Preening shadows that cloud about, mountain silhouettes of gloom, but my Father illuminates the corners of my rooms. A multitude of doors, and he's on every floor, a spectrum, a garment, a light above all lights. When my eyes are when my eyes are one, my body will be filled with light, and I will say to the mountain, move. So this in my poem here, I also talk about the things that will materialize that you don't want to materialize. So you gird your loins with great strength, lest the robbers find a way to come to you, for the difficulty which you expect will surely materialize. But what does this mean? Gird your loins. Your loins are like the muscles around your lower body, right? Okay, so those, when you have an orgasm, you expel. But if you're trying not to have an orgasm, you use those muscles to keep it in. See, what happens is when you expel that life energy, you literally announce to the universe that you have depleted yourself, because that energetic shockwave is heard in the other realm, right? So they know, and they're coming to take from you. So that's why Jesus says, gird your loins, because if this happens, you've lost. Chemically, you're losing potassium and all this other stuff, right? But energetically, you that's why you end up falling asleep right away, because you're tired and you're like, okay, you feel like you can rest now. But when you're resting, that's when they come and they harvest you. Okay, so that was really interesting. I would actually like to get into more of that a little later. We'll read Liam's story, but but yeah. So do not. I mean, it's kind of hard, right? I mean, we're human beings. We want to enjoy life and enjoy the feelings of stuff, right? But that's exactly what we're not supposed to do, because especially around harvest time, especially around certain hours like 3 in the morning, do not do that. In fact, 3 in the morning is the hour of Aquarius, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So Aquarius is the water bearer, so that ends up being like the shin. So a sine wave, so you take a human being and lay him on his side, right? And you draw a line right through him from his head to his toes, and then you start a line going up at his head, and then you bring it down around his kidneys, and then you bring it up again. I mean, under his legs and onto his feet. That sine wave has number marks. So at 6 a.m. is at the head, at 6 p.m. is at about the kidneys, and then 6 a.m. again is at the head, but at the feet. So it's like a never-ending sine wave, right? So when Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the light," he's basically saying he's the way, the trough, and the life, right? Or vice versa. I haven't looked that up, but basically, so that is the number of man. 666, 016 with your sickle in hand. The 6 is the sickle, because for me, when they came, they showed up on the 16th, the night of the 16th of October. Maybe a couple of years ago is when I caught them. So basically, they came in, and I was asleep on the couch, facing the back of the couch. And I felt it. I felt them like taking something out of my shoulder, and what's it called? I felt them come in the room, and I was like dead tired asleep. And I said to myself, I actually started singing, "Jesus loves me, yes he does. Jesus loves me, yes he does." And then I felt the tearing, or like the scooping, whatever they do on my shoulders, like on my blades, and or my traps. And as soon as it stopped, like I fought it. It's like that sleep paralysis nonsense. So I fought it. As soon as I got up, and I said, "You better give it back. You need to give it back." And then and to this day, I still have like a little bit of pain, because I felt them tearing something. So I don't know what was going on there, but I mean, it is what it is. What am I going to do about it now, right? It's been a couple of years, but maybe I can alert you guys. So don't drink, don't have sex during all these the September, November, December months, right? So don't do it. Okay. So let's move on to Liam's story. Let me see. Okay. Interesting with the moth thing, though. So moths are known as energy vampires. In fact, even Jesus even mentions that. Let me see. I think I looked it up earlier. So okay. So saying 76 in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a merchant who had a supply of merchandise and found a pearl. That merchant was prudent. He sold the merchandise and bought the single pearl for himself. So also with you, seek his treasures that is unfailing, that is enduring, where no moth comes to eat and no worm destroys." Now, we can use that. We can think of that in the physical sense, where the moth will, like, destroy things, right? But what's it called? What they're doing is they're leeching the energy from items, right? So I don't know. You guys should look it up. That moths are energy vampires, and they are. Whenever I see one, I kill it. I know there's like there's an idea going around that black moths mean death. And I mean, I've seen plenty of black moths, but I got to tell you, whenever I see one like on my doorway, like that kind of freaks me out a little bit. And I've never made the correlation, but I have had family members pass. But I mean, it is what it is. And there's also this video of I think I saw it on TikTok or maybe on Instagram Shorts or YouTube Shorts, where there's this family in a house, and there's a moth flying around and their living room, I believe, and they throw a blanket on it to try and catch it. And when the blanket falls, it forms the outline of an individual. Oh my god, dude! Like that, that was pretty scary. You guys should look that up. Moth, moth ghost, or moth turns into a shadow or something. But yeah, go check it out. All right, guys. So let's get to Liam's story. Dear Michael, I hope this message finds you well. I really like your show, and I really like coffee, so I decided to write you. Thank you. Thank you, Liam. My name is Liam, and I feel compelled to share a chilling story that unfolded on a particularly eerie autumn evening. The kind of night when you can't shake the feeling that somebody or something spooky is lurking in every corner. You see, I reside in a house that is more of an ancient relic tucked away in a forgotten town, and little did I know it had a history that could send shivers down anyone's spine. As the rain tapped on my windows like the ghostly beat of a distant drum, I was all set for the night for a night of casual relaxation, ready to dive into some creepy stories. Little did I know that I was about to become a part of a tale that would make those stories look like child's play. At first, things were strangely peculiar. Random whispers in the dead of night, objects moving of their own accord, and an incessant feeling of being watched. Initially, I brushed it off, attributing it to my imagination playing tricks on me, or the inevitable creaks and groans of an old house. However, as days turned into weeks, these disturbances took a far darker turn. One fateful night, I was jolted awake by an ear-splitting crash emanating from the kitchen. My heart raced as I rushed downstairs, only to find my grandmother's cherished vase shattered into pieces. I was alone in the house, or so I thought. There was simply no logical explanation for this inexplicable chaos. Then came the moment that left me utterly unnerved. I was in my study attempting to focus on some work, with the room bathed in the soft glow of an antique lamp on my desk. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, the lights extinguished, and I found myself fumbling for my phone's flashlight. But what happened next defied all logic. The lamp levitated before my eyes and crashed violently against the wall, shattering into countless shards, leaving me paralyzed with fear. That's a GHB overload there. Desperate for answers, I embarked on a relentless quest for knowledge. Deep within the town's archives, I unearthed an ancient document that spoke of curses, vengeful spirits, and their affinity for exploiting our unresolved conflicts. It alluded to a grim history within my house, one tainted by betrayal, murder, and a vengeful ghost condemned to an eternity of torment. Driven by a sense of desperation, I reached out to a paranormal investigator, a person well versed in unraveling the mysteries of the supernatural. He urged me to share my story with the world, for sometimes the only way to conquer darkness is to expose it to the light. As I recounted my unnerving encounters that night, it felt as if the room itself had taken on a different aura, as if the spectral presence that haunted me was aware of my revelations. The investigator listened intently, his voice providing solace amidst the nightmare that had become my reality. Following the broadcast, my inbox was inundated with messages from individuals who had experienced similarly bizarre occurrences. We formed a close-knit group united by the eerie forces that had invaded our lives. In the weeks that ensued, I embarked on a harrowing journey to unlock the secrets of my accursed house. We enlisted the expertise of paranormal specialists and conducted a myriad of rituals, but it seemed that our efforts only served to further enrage the entity. Objects began to levitate and hurl themselves through the air. Whispers plagued our dreams, and eerie shadows danced in the periphery of our vision. With the assistance of an extraordinary medium, we delved deeper into the ethereal realms, a realm where the living should not tread. She, too, was profoundly affected by what she encountered, but together we unearthed a haunting narrative, a tale of love, love-sourced betrayal, and a tormented spirit yearning for retribution. Wow. As we delved further into the house's malevolent past, it became evident that we were the ones being hunted. The entity thrived on our fear, and we could no longer ignore its sinister demands. With patience, empathy, and a profound connection to the eerie, we guided the spirit toward the light, offering resolution to an ancient tragedy. As it departed, the oppressive atmosphere that had weighed upon my home lifted, leaving behind an uncanny tranquility. My life, now forever marked by those tumultuous months, was finally free from the spectral grasp. Yet the bond I forged with my companions and the unsettling scars etched upon my soul remain a poignant reminder that paranormals can intrude into our lives when least expected. Thank you, sincerely, Liam. Wow. So that's a lot. That's pretty cool that you guys were able to resolve that, Liam. But you know, it seems like I have an encounter for everything that they've written in so far. I haven't seen the Bigfoot though, but what happened to me, and this is okay. So it's kind of a little creepy because you alluded to grandmother's house and stuff like that, right? Which is kind of what happened to me. My grandmother's house was haunted, and I had a similar experience. So one day it was like my first semester in college. This was back in 1999, right? I didn't have a car, so my friend had dropped me off at home, and my grandmother would go to the adult daycare. So she would go to my golden years, and she loved to go in there, right? So she would leave, and I was for the most part home alone. And at the time, I was working at a shoe store, the Payless shoe store. And but I wasn't supposed to go until a lot later that evening. But so I was sitting in the living room, and I would get home just in time. I was only going for a couple hours in the morning, and it was Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and it was only like 45 minutes. And my friend, he offered me a ride. So his house was past mine, so he would just drop me off on the way. And so I'm in there and I'm watching Jerry Springer. I remember I would get there just in time to watch Jerry Springer. It was at the time where he was like really popular, and before all the craziness, though. It was like the original Jerry. But so I'm sitting there, and if you can imagine that the front door is like behind me, sort of, and then the kitchen is off to the right hand side, but goes deep into the side of the house, and you can no longer see just past the dishes where the sink is, right? So I'm sitting there and I hear a sound that sounds like this: tink it, tink it, tink. And I'm like, what was that, right? So I mute the TV and I look over and I don't see anything. So I'm like, okay. So then I just kind of go back to watching TV. And then so as I'm watching TV again, I hear it again. Think it, think it, think. And I'm like, what was that? So I get up and I go and I walk into the kitchen and I see nothing. And then I'm kind of looking around and I look into the sink, and my grandma had two little angels, like porcelain angels, that were on the windowsill near like a vine plant, right? And somehow they had ended up one in each sink, standing up facing each other. I'm like, that wasn't creepy enough. So like, so I got him and I put him back on the window. So I thought to myself, like, it must have been a mouse or something that, ran across the thing, or maybe the AC. The AC wasn't on, but I just kind of rationalized it. Like, okay, it was the air from the AC because it was a vent right across from it. But at that moment, I hadn't even thought about the AC not being on. But anyways, so I went back to watching TV, and again, think. And I kind of looked, because now I was stretching my head to see down the hallway, and I knew what it was. So then I'm like, okay, there's no way that thing fell. Like I put him far into the ledge, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So I just kept watching TV, and again, think. So I got like, there's no way that other angel fell again. So I'm like, I got up and I looked, And sure enough, it was an angel, one on each side, facing each other. I'm like, okay, what are the chances of that? I'm like, maybe the mouse ran back in the other direction, you know? And then I'm like, wait a minute, the AC is not even on, so it's not the air. So then I started feeling to see if there was like a draft coming in through the window, and there was nothing. So I'm like, okay, that's it. So I got the little angels and I wedged them into the plant. And then I'm like, and then I thought to myself, try moving them now. That's what I said to myself. And then when I sat down and I turned on and I continued watching TV. Well, there was a mug that was about maybe about like 5 or 6 inches from the edge. Well, anyways, this thing flew across the room and it hit the wall and shattered. So, your story resonates with me so well because I had this ghostly encounter and it was kind of the same. So like as soon as that happened, like I didn't even bother picking up anything. I just like got up and I just walked out and went straight to work, like maybe 4 or 5 hours early. I was like, no, no. I'm not gonna deal with this, not right now. So that was pretty cool. So I mean, I really enjoyed the stories today. I hope you guys did too, and I hope that you guys will come around next time. So there you have it, folks. The thrilling conclusion of another captivating episode of the Paracosm Cafe Show. We hope you thoroughly enjoyed this dive into the world of the unknown, sipping your favorite coffee as we navigate through the tales that defy explanation. Before we say our goodbyes, we want to remind you to stay curious and keep those coffee cups filled. After all, the mysteries of our universe are as boundless as the flavors in your brew. Don't forget to subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode of paranormal intrigue and curious tales. If you have stories of your own you'd like to share, you want to just chat about coffee or any other mysteries of the world, you can find us on our social media platforms, or you can email us at the Paracosm Cafe Show at gmail.com. Until next time, may your coffee be rich, your dreams be filled with wonder, and your reality be full of fascinating discoveries. Stay curious, stay caffeinated, and remember, at the Paracosm Cafe, every cup is an invitation to explore the uncharted. We appreciated you joining us today, and we will see you on the next episode of the Paracosm Cafe Show. Thank you so much, guys, for having a sip with me. Good night.